Oh, that's it. I've had it with this dump. We got no food. We got no jobs. Our pets' heads are falling off. Okay, just calm down.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's finally here. We've got DC FanDome. All right, and I cleared the slate. I put out 3 videos on Friday. I put 3 videos out or 2 extra videos besides the live stream on Saturday, just so I could have room to cover all the news coming out of DC FanDome. And I'll be honest, it's a little bit, just a tiny bit disappointing. No major announcements as far as the creative teams. No major announcements as far as new projects. No major announcements as far as new initiatives from DC Comics. It feels like the comic book division has taken the virtual Comic-Con off, and they've just done some panels talking about things that we kind of already knew. But we do have a few snippets of information that we're going to talk about. We have an update on 5G. Here's a hint. It's dead. We got an update on James Tynion's Batman run. Another hint. They're fully behind it. And we also have some information about DC Universe, the online app that was kind of hooked in with like a streaming service that's been kind of moved over to HBO Max, and what they're going to do with the actual digital comics. And here with me to talk about that is my man, the heel of Thinking Critical YouTube, Heel Yule. How you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm glad you could make it. I love the dulcets, the tones of Yule here on Thinking Critical. I do want to say this before we get started. You've been coming around, but you haven't made the leap, and you love comic books. What are you waiting for? This is the place for all of your comic book reviews, news, opinions, streams, stuff like that. We cover the gamut. I have wonderful guests over here on Thinking Critical. Hit the bell for notifications. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this. Give us an enormous thumbs down if you don't. Either way, we do want to hear from you as far as your thoughts on DC FanDome. Were you pleased with it? Were you satisfied? Were you dissatisfied? Were you kind of unimpressed, somewhat like I am? I'm not sure how Yule feels about it quite yet, but kind of just getting into it, Yule. Not a lot came out of it. We did finally get confirmation on something that I think we pretty much knew was the case anyway. Jim Lee, during his panel discussion, essentially said, DC 5G, if you're waiting on that, you are sorely going to be disappointed. It's not happening. We decided to not use the event. We didn't want to renumber all of our comics just for a month or two. And then he also weirdly said it wasn't going to be what you thought it was anyway. It was like, we weren't going to do it, but it ain't happening. So what do you think about this? Are you excited that 5G is finally dead? They finally confirmed it. Obviously, we are getting some things from 5G, but for the most part, it's done.
I don't know if I'm excited that it's not happening. I just wasn't really all that excited for it in the first place. Mainstream comic books, superhero comic books, they have, all these IP properties. They want to keep them alive so they can keep going on, but obviously you have to do something to soup them up a little bit. Maybe, change the character's costume, make them an amnesiac, something like that, depower them, or, just have somebody actually fill the role. And we've seen it a lot of times. I mean, that's why the Silver Age, it was like one of the things about the Silver Age was that, Barry Allen became the Flash and Hal Jordan became Green Lantern. And I'm sure there were old timers back then that were like, what? Mm-hmm. That's Jay Garrick. That's Alan Scott. Those are my Green Lantern or Flashes and Green Lanterns, But they kept Superman still going. They kept Batman still going. But you don't really believe it's ever going to be a change forever if Bruce Wayne isn't Batman anymore. Dick Grayson was Batman for the Batman and Robin run. I personally really enjoyed that. His dynamic with Damian's excellent. It was never going to last forever. Probably like Damian being Robin. It's not going to last forever. So just cool it. It's okay. Just take your time. But that's how I felt about 5G. If anything lasted, it wasn't going to... It was going to be like when Marvel did their M2 line and only Spider-Woman stuck from that. Or Spider-Girl, I mean. And even that was like, why are you even continuing it? I know they have their fans out there, but it was always one of those things I couldn't believe it was still coming out. All the others are dead. 5G would be pretty much the same way, and canceling it's probably the best.
Obviously, like I said, we are getting a little bit of it. And flash forward, we got one of the, I think it was Generation Zero story or something like that kind of tied into Wally West. We know in Detective Comics 1027, which I think comes out next week, there's going to be a story that's in there from that. There's going to be an 80-page, anthology book called Generation Shattered, which I guess is the stuff that they had actually finished before they canceled the project. And we are getting John Ridley's Batman, which will have Luke Fox inherit the cape and cowl. So we are getting a little bit of 5G, but I think it's probably pretty smart. Do you think Luke Fox's Batman is going to be a big draw?
Well, the thing I thought about that was that at least he's a character within the story and has been for a long time, or at least his father has. So this was not something that would necessarily come out of the blue. It's when they just it's like when Hush is introduced and he's the villain, you know? Or I mean, Tommy. Yeah, oh, he's the villain. He just got introduced in the first page, and it's like, oh, he's the villain. At least Luke has been around. At least he has a connection with Batman and actually knows the secret of Batman. So this is, not so far out there that I couldn't grasp hold of it. But they were going to do some things like that with like Wonder Woman and Superman, and it was like, that does, I mean... Hey,
Captain
it's your universe.
Cold's
you can do whatever you want
was going
with
to
it.
be the Flash. I think Cassie Sandsmark was going to be supposedly Wonder Woman. Obviously, that's a character that's been associated with her in the past. But there's a lot of wishful thinking that any of that was really going to catch on. The big push right now at Warner Media is for these DC properties to fuel their movie, TV, streaming services. It's probably not smart to take even a 2 or 3 month break off from the main characters to just go out there and start promoting people that you're never going to make movies or streaming and stuff. Maybe we will get that in the future, but this is probably not the time for that, especially with them kind of going all in on HBO Max. So I was not surprised. Finally, they did confirm, at least Jim Lee did during the panel. The other thing that we got confirmation of, and this is not surprising probably to anybody, James Tynion's Batman run will continue at least through 2021. So at a minimum, he's getting like a 2-year run on the character. Obviously, the sales have skyrocketed. He's been pretty smart with the way he's marketed Batman, bring in new characters. Obviously, a new Joker-related character in Punchline. We got a new kind of crime character called Underboss, which I think hasn't been used enough, but I think is going to be cool. Clown Hunter's getting a lot of speculation out there. There's going to be a new like Bruce Wayne childhood friend. I can't remember the name of that character, but he's introducing a lot of new characters, so he's adding things to the Batman without taking things away for the most part, which I think is smart. Calling an event Joker War was probably pretty smart. And he has fixed some of the stuff that Tom King really botched there at the end of his Batman run. So I imagine you're happy with this news because are your customers are enjoying James Tynion's Batman run?
Oh yeah, I think it's been personally. I've really enjoyed it. Also, often I've said I'm not a Batman fan like all the time. I don't have to read it every single time, but this one's been good. I felt like I've been. It's easy to understand. It all makes sense. Even the bi-weekly nature of it hasn't felt too. For me personally, I felt those fill-in issues that are, in the bi-weekly situation don't feel as fill-in, you're getting those introductions of characters in those issues. So everything seems important and not just a throwaway. Funny enough, it's possibly because of this that they maybe didn't want to do the 5G. Because
I'm certain that they did not. They decided we're not taking Tynion off Batman as soon as the sales numbers got in.
Well, so he's doing really well. He's creating these characters, and 5G I thought was always supposed to be like the premise of that was that we're creating these characters so you could have new IPs. But here's Tynion. He's coming in And like you said, man, he has 3 or 4 brand new characters with his run in succession, basically, selling a ton of books. We don't need to just replace our characters. All we just need to do is add to their mythos. You know, the Flash has a rogues gallery. Let's add to it. You know, same thing with Batman. I like Batman because of the villains. I hear it all the time. And, you know, Clown Hunter, yeah, that kind of stuff is going to be cool when it pays off, you know?
So I've been enjoying Tynion's run. I do think it's a little bit, paced for the trades, as we might say, or even the omnibuses. We just recently did a video. But the thing I think that's really been smart with the Joe is they've had one artist, even though it is bi-weekly. Jorge Jimenez should be a superstar. When we had that video about artists that can sell comics on name alone, Jorge Jimenez should be in that list. His work, with Superman, specifically John Kent, fantastic. His work so far within Joker War, brilliant. He is an amazing artist. I really hope they commit to Jorge Jimenez being on this Batman title at least through 2021 with him, because I think that will enhance the run and it will improve sales over the long haul and give it more sustainability through the time. And you know, if they need to bring Guillaume March as the other Batman artist, perfect. He was doing very well as well. But keep Jorge Jimenez on there because he's kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah, if he has to take a little break, I think a Guillaume March is an excellent choice to fill in. Yeah. If you can, you got to keep this guy on. I fear that the bi-weekly nature is going to prevent that. And
yeah, that's why I say if you're going to have two artists, Jimenez and Guillaume March are a perfectly great team. Yeah. Maybe Tony Daniel sometimes comes in and makes a guest appearance. You know, he's a great artist as well. You know what I mean?
So yeah, those are all great things. I would second that wholeheartedly. You know, both hands up in the air all the way. That guy is a fantastic illustrator. It's not going to be long before he's a writer / artist on his own book in DC. I mean, probably Superman. We've talked. We had a lot of conjecture about Superman. This guy gets the character, and he loves that character. You know he does, just by the way he draws him. So Jorge Jimenez might be moving over to something else, you know. But yeah, until then, please keep him on Batman. And I love the fact that DC is not afraid to keep people on series, unlike Marvel. You know, Ivan Reis has been doing all of the Superman, basically, for Bendis's run. Love it or hate it, he's been on that entire run. And kind of... Go for it.
I said it looks brilliant. Even if the story isn't good, it looks great.
Yeah, it does look great. And, you know, even, and this doesn't look as good, but for quite a while now John Romita Jr. has been on Action. These are all monthly titles, by the way. You know, so if you like when Brian Hitch was on Hawkman, this was a monthly title. He did a whole year's worth. These are things that you can expect if we actually went down to a little slower pace. But think about Joker War, if it was going the whole year and like each story didn't feel like if you didn't have those stories that felt like fill-ins, then you could like actually jam more in that issue. You know, your sales would be possibly higher as people have a chance to buy on the second / third week rather than the new issue comes out on the third week. It's these are the retailer things that nobody cares about.
Interesting enough, when they announced Tynion taking over Batman and Tom King's Batman Catwoman miniseries, Batman was supposed to go to a monthly book, and you were supposed, that was supposed to be kind of the your bi-weekly was your Batman Catwoman and the Batman series. But with the way that James Tynion Batman has taken off, they quickly walked that back, and it's going to remain a bi-weekly, a twice monthly series. And I don't blame them. The sales have been amazing, and they could certainly use it. Now, moving on to like the last thing, I don't know if this one is really huge for comic readers. Definitely for a segment. When DC Universe was out there, when it was launched, there was the digital comic component, and then there was like the digital streaming component as far as new shows, Doom Patrol. What else we got in there? We got Titans, Swamp Thing, all that stuff. Now, all the digital streaming stuff has moved over to HBO Max, which we absolutely knew it was going to have to do eventually. but that whole digital library is sitting there, and people that were using DC Universe, what are they going to do? Jim Lee has promised. This was the big announcement at DC FanDome, is that there is another announcement in the future regarding the status of DC Universe and what it's going to be. I imagine it's going to remain. Maybe the price will come down, but the library will expand. I'm going to be honest. If DC or Marvel ever really want one of these digital platforms to blow up, I don't think it's going to work. Subscription is the way to do it, but it has to include new comics. I don't think that'll happen yet. It will happen eventually. But I'm excited for this. I know as a retailer, maybe you're not as excited as having people having access to all these comic books digitally. But as somebody overseas, it's invaluable to me.
Well, I'll also tell you, as a YouTuber, it's great.
Absolutely, it is.
Now I can review them all. Yeah, it would. I agree. If they're gonna blow up, they're gonna have to offer their stuff same day. Unfortunately, that doesn't feel good as a retailer. But the reality is that there's stores that are over an hour away, and then in your situation, and we got to get this product out there so that people care. If people are going to buy back issues, it's going to be over the internet anyway. And I've got these back issues that you now are reading, and I got to have this. It is so good. I have to have this in person. And what we have to do is people that are out here on the internet talking about our comic shops or comic books, is we have to excite people about what's coming out. And I'm not worried about this. I mean, a Wonder Woman issue from, those Frank Miller covers. You can't duplicate that on your computer. I mean, you could probably animate it afterwards, but you can't duplicate the in-person experience. So, yeah, I think
somebody that has read a lot of digital comics being overseas, it's absolutely necessary for me. Once I read Rye, and I read it digitally, because I bought it on Comixology when they had a Valiant comic sale. I own them all physically now. Once I read Exo Manowar, I own it all physically now because those stories were important to me, and I had to go away. And ordering from a comic shop like mycomicshop.com, where I did get my comics from, is very expensive. But the stories were important enough for me that I was willing to go out and put that money out there. I won't do that for everything being overseas. But if a story means something to me, even if I read it on digital first, I want to have it. I want to be able to have it in my hands. And quite frankly, when my sons get older, I want to be able to give it to them. And say, this is something that was important to me, and I hope that you cherish it as well. Giving them my Comixology account isn't the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. What is this app I don't care about, Dad?
Since you already read this, did you like it? Like one of 1,000 comic books I own digitally. It's not the same.
It's not the same, but it does take up a lot less space. And if there's some way that the store can figure out how to be a kiosk for these comic books on the internet, it's probably all going to be Patreon or something like that. It's like, hey, my comic store has a Ko-fi account. If you enjoyed this review of something that you're going to read digitally, throw $1 in, please.
Oh yeah, if you're going to buy it, throw $1 our way. Let us know that you appreciate it. Yeah, I got you.
That's the comic book store of the future.
We're all going to have to adapt, and I think, like I said, I do think Marvel Unlimited, DC Universe, those are going to include new comics in their subscription service. Not happening anytime soon. Like, it ain't happening this year or next year, but eventually
it should, I think. I mean, they have deals with Comixology, and I don't know how that works out or anything like that, but they should. I know Marvel's they all their stuff that you get through them goes into Comixology now. There's been a merge, so you're already going through that. But if you want to have it on your own, you want to make sure you get that stuff out there. And I think DC is already burning so many comic book bridges with stores. So many stores are so upset with them that they could probably manage this too and piss a few other people off.
Maybe. So
just do it.
Those are the three big announcements that kind of came out of DC FanDome. Like I said, nothing earth-shattering. I expected to hear about new creative teams, maybe some new projects. We didn't really get any of that. We are recording this a little bit before FanDome has ended. So that it could happen. I might have to do another video tomorrow talking about the last minute stuff that actually came out, but it doesn't feel like any major announcements. A little bit disappointing. I hope the viewers out there that did join in on FanDome actually had a good time and enjoyed the panels and everything like that. But as a content creator on YouTube, I was hoping for something new, and that just didn't really happen.
Yeah.
I will say this also, if you enjoy Yule and his takes, he does have his own YouTube channel. He is a retailer. It's called Fantastic Comics YouTube. There's a link in the video description, as well as there should be an icon on the screen right now. Looks like Hellboy. If you select that, you can go to his channel and subscribe that way. It's really easy. Yule, thank you so much for joining me today, buddy.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And it was a lot of fun.